that a disappointment? That is not why I signed up to be a Republican, to watch the Republicans rack up the largest entitlement program in the history of our country, and then to run up record deficits on top of that. It was an embarrassment. But here we are right now. I think that we need to balance, first of all, Peter, I don't know how you could get a more succinct appraisal of what exactly has happened in this country and what's going to happen. I think we're on the verge of an imminent financial collapse. And the only thing we can do as a government, which is what we ought to be doing, and we ought to be doing it tomorrow, is balancing the federal budget tomorrow. I mean, rather than nibbling at the edges, which is, what, $100 billion is what the Congress is talking about? Rather than nibbling at the edges, this is $1.5 trillion that we need to knock from the federal budget to balance revenues with expenditures. And that means we've got to start talking about Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and defense. So just some ideas. Medicaid, Medicare. The federal government could block grant the states a fixed amount of money for Medicaid, Medicare, do away with the mandates, give health care back to the states for the poor and for those over 65, and maybe it isn't over 65, maybe it's 70, maybe it's 72. 50 laboratories of innovation, all out to practice, all out to compete for this notion of best practices. And you know, there would be best practices that would emerge. And we would emulate the best practices, and there would be failure, and we would avoid the failures. But this is what our country was founded on. And then when it comes to Social Security, you know, Social Security is a relatively small problem to Medicare. Medicare is going to engulf the entire federal budget if not brought under control. But Social Security, very simply, is not really a reduction of 43%. Social Security is a system that's based on more revenue coming in than is going out. So what you've got to create is that. So it's a combination, I think, of raising the retirement age. It's a combination of reducing the benefit, not all that much, and reducing the escalator when it comes to the built-in the escalator in Social Security moving forward. And then perhaps it's some means testing. And I am not talking about raising taxes in any way. I'm just talking about a system that can be made to bring in more money than what gets paid out. And we've got to get over this baby boomer bubble that are going to become eligible for benefit. And then defense. We're spending more money than all the other countries in the world combined, and we're only 5% of the world's population. We're nation building when we have our own nation to build. We're building roads, schools, bridges, highways, and hospitals in Iraq and Afghanistan, and don't we have those same needs here? I was opposed to us getting into Iraq from the start. I thought that we had the military surveillance capability to see Iraq roll out any weapons of mass destruction, that if they would have done that, we could have gone in, we could have dealt with that situation surgically and taken care of the issue. I thought that if we went into Iraq, we would find ourselves in a civil war to which there would be no end. I thought that Afghanistan initially was completely warranted. I thought that was a military strike. It was against Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, and that we are at war with Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, and should remain vigilant to the terrorist threat that is out there. But that was 10 years ago. So I would advocate getting out of Iraq and Afghanistan tomorrow. And for all the issues that we could talk about getting out of Iraq and Afghanistan tomorrow, we could sit here for the next hour and talk about all the pitfalls that would lay before us if we were to do that, and they would all be valid. But that same discussion will happen 25 years from now, and we'll raise those same issues 25 years from now, if that's when we finally decide to get out of Iraq and Afghanistan. This is a new world. It's 2011. We talk about infrastructure projects in Europe, trains. We talk about healthcare system in Europe. Talk about trains in China. Well, aren't we subsidizing these infrastructure projects because these countries haven't had to pay for their defense? We have. We've got to share this burden. We will. I really believe in free markets. I really believe that number one, that you either believe in free markets or you don't. The notion that lower cost for goods and services benefits all of us. I believe that. When it comes to schools, educational entrepreneurs, when the whole healthcare debate started, really, to me, this was an opportunity to bring free market reform to healthcare. Healthcare entrepreneurs, the government involved in getting rid of impediments, regulation for healthcare entrepreneurs that would have wanted to enter into the healthcare space to deliver better products, better services at lower prices. Advertised pricing. You know, I had this notion of gallbladders are us when the whole healthcare debate started. The notion that clinics would specialize in gallbladder surgery at thousands of dollars as opposed to tens of thousands of dollars. And by the way, healthcare in this country is about as far removed from free market as it possibly could be. Amen. Insurance in a free market. I would buy insurance in a free market to cover me for catastrophic illness and injury. But the notion of paying insurance for ongoing medical care, that's just, it's crazy. You're going to spend more money than what you get out of it. And if you don't, you're going to subsidize somebody else. What we've got with the health care bill that has passed is we have a situation where 30 million more Americans are going to be dropped on a system with no added capacity. In my opinion, it's going to result in rationing, and it's going to result in higher costs. And looking at immigration right now, which is really a hot button issue. First, immigration should be about work, not welfare. And when we talk about welfare in this country, we have issues in this country with our welfare system. Are Mexicans coming across the border and taking entry-level jobs from Americans? Absolutely not. Because we can sit at home and we can collect a paycheck that's just a little bit less or the same amount of money to do nothing. So legal immigration is a good thing. Immigration is a good thing. We're running out of time. So,
don't just stop.
I think I'm glad that Google is a U.S. company and not a Russian company. And right now, because of our immigration policies, because of our convoluted immigration policies, we are educating kids from abroad, and we're sending them back to their country of origin that are going to ultimately employ tens of millions of Indians as opposed to U.S. citizens. If given the chance, those startups would have happened here in the United States. And then talking about corporate income tax. Let's eliminate corporate income tax, understanding that it's a double taxation, and that would result in the creation, I think, of tens of millions of jobs in this country, making this country the place to create jobs. Make it easy to get a work visa. Work visa, not citizenship, not a green card, but a work visa, background check, social security card, so that applicable taxes would get paid. For those 11 million illegal immigrants that are here in this country right now, let's set up a grace period where they can get a legal work visa. And then once we do this, then let's make it a one strike you're out. Let's pass laws that are enforceable. Pass laws that are enforceable, and then if you're in this country illegally, you'll be arrested, you'll be deported, and you'll never come back to this country and work again. Back to legalizing marijuana. Legalize marijuana, and arguably 75% of the border violence with Mexico goes away, because that's the estimate of the Mexican drug cartel's activities that are engaged in the marijuana trade. The notion, we need to be really tuned in to cost benefit. The notion of building a fence across 1,600 miles of border. The notion of putting the National Guard arm in arm across 1,600 miles of border, in my opinion, would be a whole lot of money spent with very little, if any, benefit whatsoever. I just want to thank all of you for your advocacy. I want to thank all of you for your advocacy. Right now, what I see, having been on the road for the last 14 months, is the Republican Party wants a piece of the liberty movement, and I think that you've laid the groundwork for that, and I thank you. And then personally, I really want to thank you today for your vote. I'll call it a vote of confidence, voting me in this presidential straw poll as your #1 guy. Really,
all right. Thanks very much, Governor Johnson, and thank you to our other as well.